Welcome everyone to this morning's presentation, Understanding BIM 360 Tools. My name is Mark Henze, Robotech's Account Executive for AE Solutions. I'm delighted that you could take time out of your busy schedules to join us here this morning. Also with us will be Cesar Ruest, Autodesk Construction Solutions Executive. You know, whether it's Revit, iPads, or cloud-based software, technology has evolved over the years to become a game changer for the AEC community. If you were to list the benefits that technology has brought, it might include increasing efficiency, improving communication, saving money. One of the most important things on that list is technology's ability to help you win new business and tackle the next project. Next slide, please. On your screen is a snapshot of who we are and what we do, and many of you are already familiar with us. With over 34 years in the business and with a combined staff experience of over a century, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. We provide technology awareness and assessments to ensure intelligent deployment of the latest technology, workflows, and industry strategies. Your staff is always welcome to pose functional and strategic questions to our consultants. We provide an understanding of how the applications are managed and supported. We provide training both on-site and in our state-of-the-art training facility. We've also contracted with the New Jersey Department of Labor to provide the latest technical training to the area's workforce. In addition to training, we provide ongoing consultation that's required to successfully implement Autodesk, Bus, and Bluebeam solutions. Robotech provides live technical support both on-site and remotely. Robotech support is staffed by our solution specialists who have a high-level knowledge of the tools and issues you face. Our staff understands and is capable of providing strategic, consultative support as needed. We're here to learn about solutions that enable BIM as a process, not just as another piece of software. The primary purpose in the AEC industry, really, is to get a project done. Yet, there are many events in the process of project completion that constantly eat away at the time assigned to the project. Getting the right information to people involved with the project, whether as part of the design team, project management, consultants, or building owners, is vital to its success. Towards this end, we have coordination meetings, create secondary documentations like PDFs, set up FTP sites, and a host of other activities, all of which, however, divert time from our primary purpose, which is project completion on time and within budget. I'm very pleased to turn this presentation over to Cesar Ruest from Autodesk to explain to us how Autodesk BIM 360 tools greatly improve the collaboration process and enable us to focus on our primary purpose.
Thanks for taking your time out today. I believe this will be a great effort. Collaboration for Revit is going to be the topic. There's going to be three major components that we're going to dig into for this topic of collaboration for Revit. We're going to talk about accessing project data, and this means in a few different ways. So I know that there's people from an Autocad background here on the call. There's folks from Revit here on the call. And there's going to be people who don't even use any of those tools, but they want to know, how do we access the project data, right? So think of your entire project team and deliverables for architecture, engineering, construction, whether you're doing buildings or if you're doing infrastructure. In this case here, we're going to cover some spots that are specific for Revit, and then we're going to cover some spots which are team-based. But this is about accessing the project data. The very first part of our presentation will focus on Revit and collaboration for Revit as it relates to Revit itself. So this first part is about Revit, but I'm going to talk to you about in the second and third part, or the third part specifically, once the data starts to get compiled, what can you do with it? How can you access it from different team members who are not using Revit and who are not using any kind of CAD platform whatsoever? So the very beginning here, and as we call it as C for R really is collaboration for Revit. So I'm going to try to grab my pen and dig up this. So C for R is collaboration for Revit. Revit is living inside the cloud. So the central file right here, when I say Revit is living inside the cloud, it's really the central file. And this central file is an essential tool for those people that don't know Revit. You could use, unlike AutoCAD, Revit has the technology behind it where multiple people can work on a single file at the same time without overriding each other's data. And that's a pretty big deal. It's much different from AutoCAD where you do a lot of DWG linking and XREFing and stuff like that. Yes, you can still do that inside of Revit, but Revit has central file capabilities. And with those people that use Revit today, this is the part that's new to you. You can have your central file living in the cloud. And so with the firms of architecture, this is typically where we have architects asking us, how can we get our engineers closer to us inside of our project? And in this case here, architecture firm A, let's say, has 2 offices, maybe one in Boston, one in Chicago. They're able to do that today with just their servers. And they would typically use Revit Server. They would have a private wide area network. But usually what happened was firm B, which was the engineering firm, could never get into their central file with them. And so what Collaboration for Revit does, because the central files live in the cloud now, each firm then goes in through the cloud to access the central file, and the central file then is pulled down from the cloud as a local file. And make no mistake, for those people that have never heard about Revit doing this, each person that is on this file can work on the exact same file at the exact same time. Objects become locked out to those individuals who access the objects, like a wall, a door, or a window. When I want to put in a wall or I put a door into a wall, it will lock those objects out to me until I save it back to the central. So in Collaboration for Revit, here's what it used to mean in the past. In the past, for firms to do this, they would have to buy servers, they would have to use what would be called Revit Server software, which was free, but they would have to use it. They would, to manage the other files, like the DWGs, the doc files, and the Excel files, this is where they would use additional things like FTP storage. Bringing it all together, you know, the secret sauce is typically a VPN connection. And to support all of this, there was typically an IT staff involved at the root of it all. And the poor project manager is down here. That person had to take, you know, a giant cup of faith to make sure that everything was up and running the whole time, all the time for their team. But now with C4R, the file itself, the central file, lives on the component called BIM 360 Team. That's where the central file is going to live, in the team cloud. The C4R tools, are installed on each one of these computers for anybody that needs to author in Revit. And that's something that's really important to know. The licensing for C4R is per user, and the questions you would ask yourself is, how many people in our firm need to author in Revit on the central file at the same time with other people in this project? And if the answer was 4, then you would get 4 licenses of C4R. And the C4R licenses include the team cloud as well. So we no longer need the labor and the hardware for IT. And the project manager, you know, this, not trying to poke fun too much, but this is typically the project manager. And in the eyes of project manager, this is how they feel that IT kind of makes them jump through hoops. But, you know, in all honesty, IT has their job, PMs have their job, and now, you know, finally the two can actually live peacefully in coexistence. And we're really talking about cloud. And the cloud, when we have these files living in the cloud, the other thing which is very strong, specifically in the C4R suite, is this viewing capability. And you notice viewing is a cloud benefit or a cloud function by itself. So the moral of the story is anybody who does not have any DWG or AutoCAD, they don't have AutoCAD, they don't have Revit, they're a project principal, they're a project manager, they don't have the actual software tools from Autodesk, but they want to use and see, they want to see the drawings, they want to see the models. This is where the viewing capability comes in. This is part 3 of what I'm talking about for everybody on this call to really be interested in. So sticking with our Revit folks just for the moment, this is essentially what happens. You always are working on your locally cached Revit central file. And your locally cached Revit central file, when you make changes, it's only those changes that get saved back to the central file cloud. We call them the delta changes or the delta transfers. So if your project file was 100 megabytes, for example, and that's totally fair, the projects get very large, you're never transferring, except for that very first time when you do a very first sync to central. After that, from a daily basis, you're only transferring and syncing to central the delta changes. And it's the same thing. So you'd send up a delta change. Maybe you added a door into a wall, right? And maybe when you do your reloading your latest work sets, anything that was changed, maybe there was only a steel beam or a column that was added inside of the model. Your delta download would also be just the difference between what you have in your local file and what was up in the cloud. And built into the collaboration for Revit is the software Accelerator. You don't have to worry about that stuff. I'm just telling you in the background, this is what's happening. You just need to know that you can do your work. Now, as far as the communication goes, this is part 2 of collaboration for Revit. This enhanced communication really puts in a tool into Revit that allows for communication. So let's face it, it's not suited for communication today. I know we have people using Link, Skype, some kind of a messaging tools today, but what we built into Revit, and collaboration for Revit, I should say, is the tool that's called Communicator. So any people inside your firm or outside your firm, when they are running Revit and they are signed in, you will see these people logged into the Communicator. And if I log into collaboration for Revit, there's my sunny smiley face right there, I will get to read the chats which have been happening throughout the communication window. We can have team chats. We can have direct chats with one-on-one. So in this case here, because I can see more than one person doing chats, I'm part of a team chat. As well as if I'm associated to more than one project, because with collaboration for Revit, you can work on more than one project at a time. If you're, you buy the license for a year, you get to work on as many projects as you wish. And there's no restrictions to that. And so historically, you get to see who said what. And with some of these tools right down at the bottom, you have a tool here, which is a screen capture tool. And the screen capture tool lets you take and capture a moment of time in your Revit screen to better describe what you want to describe to that person. Now, the save to central is actually, it's been a heartache, quite honestly, with some folks. Whenever they were using a tool called Revit Server, they would never know who is saving to central. And in this case here, the communicator also shows the context of who is saving when and who previously saved. And the nice thing about this is, as a project team, if they are linking and saving brand new Revit files to the project folder, you will also see those new project files that they're saving to the Revit folder. So Save to Central doesn't just highlight itself here to say who's saving this file that we're working on right now. So if Tom is actually working on a separate engineering file and it's part of this project, this central project repository, we will see Tom's saving the mechanical.rvt file to central, even though I'm the architect. So it really gives you some great insights as to project progress. So overall, the process looks like this. You save to central, you're choosing a project to which you're saving to central, and then Collaboration for Revit uploads that file. I'm going to show you that live, and as well as showing you the user experience overall. Now, specifically, I wanted to show you one more thing here. Let's bring up this file right here. There we go. So this is the third part. This is where I really want to make everybody feel inclusive. With C4R, you get the activation of BIM 360 Team. And now I can say timeout. If from this point forward, if you have anybody as AutoCAD users here and you're only AutoCAD users, from this point forward, you can actually subscribe to licenses of only Team, and Team is the sharing, viewing, and searching mechanism to which all files are respected. So C4R includes Team, but you folks out there that are not necessarily using Revit, and you have principals and directors who don't use CAD, but they want to access it, so they use things like PDF viewers, the things that are not, let's say, Autodesk flavored to view PDFs. Team can really, really benefit everybody in a number of different ways. And this is where I really want to put the brakes on for everybody that's using siloed tools. So the BIM 360 Team, it's called BIM 360, but let's kill that. It has stuff to do with BIM because you can see, look, you can see a model. But at the same thing, I'm going to show you in a moment, you can see floor plans. You can see drawings. So BIM 360 Team, it's a marketing name. So it's not always about BIM, so we can scratch that out. 360, that just means cloud. So you might as well say Autodesk's cloud. And the team name really is more important for anybody else. So if you go back to Robotech and you say, hey, I want to get some team, feel free to say that. Here's the big differentiator though, okay? This is ginormous. So what Team does natively without additional plugins, it leverages browsers. It also leverages iOS tools like phones and iPads. But the big differentiator is we will expose native and viewable capabilities of native RVT, DWG, Navisworks files. Native. So when you upload a native RVT file, a .rvt or a .dwg, Team will expose and extrapolate the sheets or layouts from these file formats for the purposes of design review, either 2D or 3D, and design markup. That is a huge differentiator. Of course, we still support the PDF, but what I'm saying is if you're doing design iteration and you want to streamline the number of steps you get to do design and then review, you don't have to do a PDF markup anymore. Of course, some projects require a final deliverable of PDF for contractual drawings. That's fine. But in between that stage and beginning of project, you can do these ones a lot more successfully quicker because these steps right here will also version out for you from version 1 to version 2 to version 3. Every time you upload the next iteration of your design, it will version and keep the historical precedence for you. And we have this thing called live review. You know, one of the other competitive tools out there has a very similar live review process. We have the exact same thing in Team, where you can view the model, and as I spin this model around, somebody else who's using an iPad will see the model spin, because their camera perspective is my camera perspective, and we can slice and dice the model up and comment on it. And in virtually any format as well. So, you know, again, you don't need to know this, but I'll tell you, it's running Navisworks in the background. It's not a plugin, it's just a simple web viewer with an iOS application to it, which will come out in Android as well very soon. But it's iOS right now for your phone and your tablets. And that's the nice thing. It was designed for iOS in the beginning. And the simple tools are all common across these platforms. Drop dead easy to use. And the tools of iPad and phone have an online, offline capability for, you know, if you go to a project and if you don't have an online web Wi-Fi accessibility, you can save these project files to go offline. So if you're in the airport as well or on a plane. So I'm going to skip through this and say, you know, what's included. What is included is this central file capability, working on a central file in Revit from the cloud. When you buy C4R, Team is included in this license. By the way, you start at 500 gigabytes per license, and the licenses can be pooled to pool data. You know, moral of the story here is, I don't think you're going to run out of data storage. The Communicator chat is included. That Communicator window where we're doing the chatting, the save to central syncing. This model management and versioning, that is built into Team itself, so that's included. And the scalable licensing. This is a big deal, and essentially the scalable licensing means when you buy subscription licenses, you're going to, as the administrator, allocate licenses to individuals in your group. When or if you have people leave your office, maybe they go on to a project or a new job, you can revoke the license and then re-administer it to somebody else. So essentially, there is a return on investment with this, and what we say is if C4R can save just 10 minutes a week per person, it would literally pay for itself. Okay? So let's skip into this and let's take a look at what C4R looks like live. So this is going to focus on the Revit side first. For those people that are AutoCAD, just stay tuned with me because I'm going to show what the Team side looks like in a moment. But this is Revit, and you can tell that I've got C4R on my system as well as I've started to use it. This file has a small moniker with a cloud, and you see the path? So the path of this is BIM 360, the project of Skyscraper. The file in the cloud is called House Veth. This file is my C drive, and you can see it doesn't have the little moniker down here as well. And the other thing is with this, when I click on open, you'll also see here, because I have C4R installed, it'll put the shortcut of BIM 360 Team right here. So when I want to do file linking or open up files from the cloud, the files have to be in Team coming through Revit. But that being said, I can access Team right through here. Now let's open up sample project, this sample architectural project. This is a demo project that comes in every license of Revit, so nobody should be afraid of this project. We have project sizes, by the way, of hundreds of megabytes in C4R, as well as small megabytes in C4R. We can handle very large projects down to small and medium-sized projects, so feel comfortable with that. This project is all set. Let's pretend that I just worked on this all morning, and I want to share this with my team to start engineering it mechanically as well as structurally. my collaborate button will expose the collaborate function as well as the communicator function. So I want to collaborate. And collaborate will institute collaboration using the cloud. This is the beginning of C4R right here. And I'm going to say OK. Now, I want to rename this, and let's just call this House Rolo. And it's asking me at this point, okay, Caesar, which cloud project site do you wish to send this to? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 project sites in the cloud. I have this skyscraper project in the cloud, and I want to send this file from my computer to the cloud site called skyscraper. And I'm going to initiate that. So what it's doing, it's making this into a central file. It's creating the default work sets that get made with central files. You could also start from a central file with your own work sets and publish this to the cloud. But then once it pushes it to the cloud, it's going to then pull the model back to my computer as that linked central file, but it'll be a locally cached file on my computer, and we're done. So this is where, this point of time, people think, okay, is Caesar working on a file that's in the cloud, right? So I just said, is Caesar working on a file that's in the cloud? And the answer is no. I'm always working on a locally cached file on my computer, but the link, the smart link, is to the cloud. So whenever I would go and change the roof, I would be changing the roof model on my local file first, and then when I click on this icon right at the top here, this Save to Central, then it would update the roof in the central file for those to see it in my team. That's how collaboration for Revit works. Now, before we go to the cloud to show you where that file is, let me show you Communicator. So again, built into C4R, Communicator is only a Revit tool. It's not an Autocad tool. In this case here, you can see I'm online, obviously. It's got me as green. I don't have any other people inside of this project. My project name is Skyscraper. That's my active project. If I go to all projects, these are the associated projects to which I'm accorded to. So for example, let's go into this Autobahn project. And these are architects and engineers from different offices all on this Autobahn project. And you can see, I can chat to one of these people inside of the project. I can send a message, an email message to everybody in this project. Now, whenever I dig into this project, this is where the project becomes highlighted here on the side ribbon, but this is the historical information that you see. So when you dig back into the project, you can see all of these screen captures. Okay, the deadline shifted. Joe said this way back last year, and he did this screen capture. And to do a screen capture, you just kind of zoom in to wherever you want to be on the screen. And then down here, you'll see these tools. You can send an image from your hard drive. You can do the screen capture. You can send a file, literally send like a PDF file or a document file right through this chat window. And then you can also export this chat history for, for posterity sense. So let's capture this screen. So let's do this, and let's capture this chunk of the screen and capture. And now we can say whatever we want to say, like please review the legend. And you can do things like @Joe or something like that, so that Joe knows that I'm talking to him. I could have sent this chat directly to him, but I'm sending this out to the entire team. So that's the chat window. And then the timeline window is where you can see the sync to central. So like I said, as long as you're in a project, so I'm in this R 2017 Skyscraper project, anybody that saves a file to this project from Revit, you will get to see which file they're saving to Central and who is saving it, as well as the comments to which they are adding every time they sync to Central. Okay, so this is all here historical, which is actually very fantastic. It's almost like what you don't realize how good the tool is until you start using it. You kind of wonder, am I really going to use that? It's kind of like a new feature on a car. Am I really going to use the keyless entry of my car? You see, it seems kind of wishy-washy at first, but as soon as you start using it, you kind of wonder, I couldn't have lived without it. Now that's the Communicator. And here's the last thing I want to show you within the Collaborate tab. Now, those of you that are architects and engineers, you might really appreciate this at every level, but specifically in Revit, you know that in Revit, you create sheets, and they're part of the entire file. So my sheets are all here, sheets 1 to 5. Now, as an architect, I would typically work on one sheet and not necessarily complete it. So what you can do is actually publish your Revit file with only those sheets and those 3D views that you want to share with your people. So publishing is how the file gets versioned inside of Collaboration for Revit. So if I wanted to publish only the title sheet and the plans and the 3D views, like this 3D view right here, if this is all I want to publish, then only those people who have access to Team will only see the sheets called Plan and this 3D view. The publishing tool is your best tool for doing progress sets so that people who are doing review only see the data that they need to see. That's really important. That's built into Revit today, but it's highlighted here inside of the Collaborate tab. That's what you would do. So let's fast forward. Let's gain everybody's attention back. Everybody that's AutoCAD, everybody that's, Revit. Even more important, this is more important. If you have anybody that doesn't want to touch AutoCAD, but want to review drawings and mark up drawings, they need to see this. This is Team. This is the project that I just published this out to. So for example here, my project called Skyscraper, you're looking at the BIM 360 Team website. And like I said, if you don't use Revit in your office, you can still buy BIM 360 Team separately instead of buying Collaboration for Revit, because obviously you don't have Revit. You would buy Team separately, and you would use that on your AutoCAD flavored projects. Okay, so Team, when you jump into it, these are your Team hubs. So I have my own personal hub. I have a hub to which I'm also associated with. These are the projects in my hub. Inside of each of these projects, there are different project members. So I made this project Skyscraper. Here are the project participants. I have Caesar, I've got Merck, and then I've got this other guy named Caesar, and then I've got Brendan. And you can see their permission levels. This is how you view and add new users. You just click on invite, and you just send them an email. Blah, 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 blah. And I want to make you an editor or a viewer. It's drop dead simple. Okay? If you want to know what the difference is between the two, you click on the question mark. So viewing lets you do commenting, viewing, posts, accessing conversations. If you want to do shared files and stuff like that, then you need to be editor, moving, copying, rotating, and inviting other people, editor. And then project admin lets you actually approve people coming into the project. Now, the nice thing about Team is you can see it thumbnailed. This is a list view, but you can also see it thumbnailed. And inside of here, I've got a Navisworks file. I've got my Revit files, a DWF file. I've even got the AutoCAD files in here somewhere. There's my Bethlehem. There's my house robo file. You can see the preview of it. Let me go into a file which has some real, a little bit of a history behind it, because right now that was just a freshly published file. Let me go into this hospital. So here's some AutoCAD files. You can see the title blocks kind of showing up. There's a JPEG. Oh, here's a Microsoft document file, and it's on version 4. Here's a Microsoft Excel file, and it's on version 2. You can view natively in Team, you can view doc files and Excel files. You can't mark them up, but you don't need an extra browser, or you don't need Microsoft Word to view it. You can view it right here. Now, let's dig into one file that I've been beating up on quite a bit. This one right here, Hospital, November. This is on version 4. This is a Revit file, and this is a published Revit file. The nice thing about the Revit files are they will never be touching your master central file. They'll always be touching your published file. And they would get to do and see things like this. When you see the file come into it the first time, I always recommend go into the overview of the file. And this overview shows you, this is version 4, 25 megabyte file. This has 4 sheets in it. And the comment trail, or the history, shows me that in version 4, there were 9 redline or issue comments created. You can see the small thumbnails here. And as I scroll down, you will also see, just in a second, version 3. And in version 3, I also have some capabilities. I have these different capabilities that I wanted to associate with. So let's dig into it a little bit more. I'm going to scroll down. This is the one I really want to look at. This is a workflow that makes sense to everybody that's architecture and engineering. At the beginning, Caesar said, add the wall and door to the corridor. So let's click on this thumbnail. It'll bring this markup full on to the screen, right? So here's the architect said, add the wall and door in the corridor, and then move the exam room walls. So you can see, like everybody knows what this means, right? Move these walls to here and do this. And then the project manager says, I approve this move. And then the Revit user says, okay, I'll do it, right? So this, you would put this markup on the side screen. These markups don't overlay on Revit. This remains static right here. But I would go ahead and do this move in Revit, and then I would, respond back to say, hey, the move is done. Once the move is done, that means I've uploaded version 4. So as the project manager who just approved this move, let's play the role of the project manager right now. So I want to compare versions, and check this out. I have versions 1, 2, 3, 4, who did the updates when, and compare versions. So now I'm going to go in and compare version 4 versus 3 on the ground floor sheet and go. So the taskbar is actually loading in version 4, version 3. It's doing the comparison, and this is the killer stuff. Because it's Revit, the comparison is at an object level. This is absolutely sweet. So, I was dumbfounded when I first saw this. It's like, wow, this is cool. These are buttons. So what's in yellow, and turn that button off, you can see what is green now is right here. It's at an object level identifying that this wall and this door is pulling out the properties. So, okay, that's cool. But the sweetest part about this when I saw this was this. That's a lot of this is to say there. So the modifies, that's the one I was interested in, because if I'm doing a review, I want to know what's the impact of this exam room, because I told them to move this wall to here, right? So check this out. Exam room 2-3, this is telling me it's increased by 36 square meters on version 4, but when I choose version 3, how big was it? Like, it's not only cool, it's useful to actually visually see the movements of the object information and the extrapolation of the data. That is killer. And then from here, these are the markup tools. Like down here, you've got the measurement tool. When you get out of the compare, you'll do the markups, but that's killer stuff. Like, yeah, here we go. Markup, comment, turn everything off. So there's nothing stopping you. You can still come back here and mark up. You've got a freehand tool. You've got arrow tools and such. Okay, let's cancel that out because I really don't want to start marking this example up. But in a nutshell, that is collaboration for Revit, respecting DWG, RVT, PDF, DOC, XLS. It has a lot more capabilities in here. So, you know, we could do a whole webinar on just team because it has things like the calendar, a discussion thread. It also has something in here called the wiki where you can put in all kinds of project notes. Your folder structure can be set up. So, you know, so guys from Robotech, let's kind of put a pause on my presentation right now. I forgot to mention anybody, if you have a question and answer, or if you want to have a question answered, go ahead and type it into the chat window. And maybe if we do have some questions that came in, maybe we can take a look at those now.
Sounds great, Caesar. If anybody has any questions, please enter them now, and we'll review them before we proceed.
Sure. So just, you know, I'll give you some time. Like, I'll give you a minute to type in a question if you have. I'll preamble over it a little bit. So when we dig in, let me go into one project. I think that I've got an example of a nice wiki here. I'm going to go back to my home page and check out this skyscraper project.
Mark, let me know to share screen.
This wiki page has got an example here. This wiki is built out. You just click on new wiki page and it'll add it to the line item. The way I see it working for a firm is, you know, sometimes you get new people coming into your office or new people.
Hold on a minute there, Caesar. We need to share your screen so that we can see the chat box. So we
okay.
Just need to share your screen so we can see what's going on. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I thought you were still seeing it. So the nice thing about the wiki page is this. You'd create a new wiki page. It would just line up as another line item here. But as a project manager, I used to tell people, okay, you know, go to the library at the back of the office and, you know, this is the stuff that we're using in this project. Or, you know, everything is inside of this Z drive and all these locations. So you can set up a wiki that shows the file locations and tell everybody, you know, all the model files are here. And you can put up hyperlinks to other things. The other thing as well as you can put meeting notes in here. So the wiki can actually contain the meeting notes. And the meeting notes can be formatted to include images from the web or from whatever you took. You can then format the meeting notes with highlighting, colors, text styles, bullets, and so on. And then lastly is the calendar. The calendar can be supplemented for your project schedule. And when you use the calendar, you can also create new activities and then put in things like description and Google Map locations. And it's very well respected when it shows up in your Outlook or Gmail. All the hyperlinks are active. Very nice feature. So any questions from your side on Robotech?
No, we didn't see anything come in. You must have done such a wonderful job there, Caesar, that I think we covered all the bases.
Something just came in.
Oh, here's something.
Do you see it there, Mark? It says, hold on one second.
Not sure if you're trying to read the question or not. Can't hear what's taking place. If you can, it'd help.
Okay, we got a question here. Are the Revit models version dependent?
Are the Revit models version dependent? So for versioning, whenever you would publish, remember I was showing that publish feature back here inside of Revit. When you publish, it'll be published out as the same Revit file name. And because it's published to the same site with the same file name, then in that case, it will automatically version for you. So in this case, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my screen resolution. You can just barely see one of the files. When I click on this symbol called publish, it will go ahead and update the version that's in the cloud on the team site. If the version if it was a brand new file overall, of course it's not going to version, but we'll take care of that versioning. And then back in team, or sorry, in Revit still, this is important to know, in Revit, you can actually go back into the versions, and then you can come back and restore past versions if you wish. And I've seen this happen where, you know, an architect would have somebody new come on the project, and all of a sudden, you know, all of the fluff just hit the fan. Like they did something on the project where it's like, that's not your best day in the office. We need to restore the past version. So you would do that right through here inside of Revit, just as you would in the past. And that's a nice piece of Revit. But that being said, for those people that are AutoCAD or even Microsoft Documents, you can come into the versions, and then you can come and restore past versions and make them current.
Okay, I think Caesar, that's great. What the question really was are the models still version dependent? In other words, you know, Revit 2015, 2016, right? I think that's the question. In other words, is C4R and BIM 360 independent of the version of Revit that the project is being done in?
Okay. So specifically, C4R will run on specific versions of Revit. It started in 2015. So when you're running C4R, you will be running it on a version of Revit. When a project is set up, whatever file lands in there first, a version of file. So for example, if you're in Revit 2016 in a project folder, and the project folder was published from Revit using Collaboration for Revit in 2016, that project itself will become a flavored project of 2016, a version project of 2016. That is the way it works today. So if you're in a 2017, your project will be versioned as 2017 and will require 2017 to work in.
So again, just to recap, then the C4R will work on version 2015 and later, correct?
Correct. But the caveat remains. You want to make sure that the project and those stakeholders in that project are also on that exact version of Revit, because let's say somebody is going to want to publish from 2016 into a 2017 project, they're not going to be able to do that.
Right.
So you want to make sure that that once the project is born, that's a good way of looking at it. Once it's born of a version, it needs to remain that version for the duration of that project until, you know, the workaround, if you get, like 2018 is just around the corner, right? And that totally makes sense. You're working in 2016 right now. Let's say you want to jump to 2018. You would save the central file basically back as a local central file to your machine. You would upgrade that to 2018, and then you would publish that to a new project, being a 2018 project in Collaboration for Revit in BIM 360 team.
A totally different project, right? New project.
Correct.
Yeah.
You got it.
Okay.
Yep.
No more questions.
Well, it doesn't look like we have any more questions there, Caesar. Do you have anything more to present here?
No, that's it. I'll turn it back to you.
Well, that's great, Caesar. Thank you for that enlightening presentation. We really appreciated the effort that you went to make this. And we'd like to thank everybody for attending this morning's session. And we look certainly forward to hearing from you. Send us your questions and requests. Give us a call at 201-792-6300 or contact us at the CAD team at robotechcad.com. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your day.